what is most impacting your life today? So I got to say my piece about, okay, I have a grandbaby, but everybody has something. Sometimes it's famous or news. Ottoman's been a granddad now for another granddad again for a week, and so he's thinking about that. But I'm remembering Ottoman organized the food for like 50 people on Friday night, and you never know who's coming or who's not, and it's like really nice. And a whole team of people working on that. Pedro, maybe you're still thinking about your concert last night. I heard it was good. So, Diana and Gabriel are here from Colombia and just moved in, and so this is the start of they've completed 2 weeks in Uruguay, and their children are down with the children, and they're wondering how that's going to go. And Jonathan Kaitasov was just like winning a national championship of strongmen competition. And so I saw some of that online. Miguel Lagenda, who on December 15th, we're going to have a memorial service in the British Cemetery where his wife Clarice was buried last December 15th, or maybe the burial was just after that. And Miguel came here to take charge of the kids, came over from Angola, and he just got a job. So he starts on Tuesday. And that's without Spanish. So he's learning his Spanish, but he'll prefer to speak to you in French or maybe Portuguese. So congratulations, Miguel. We're praying for you, my friend. So many things, right? So what does the Bible say about singleness and marriage? Now, last week, you could look at the first part, and we talked a little bit about Adam and Eve, an often quoted text in Adam and Eve in Genesis. But single or married, is one better than the other? Why? Why not? So I said last week, okay, I'm married. I've been married more than 30 years, and in fact, coming up on 32 years. And so I don't think I'm an expert on being single. I talk to lots of people. I work with lots of people. You can be a single dad. You can be a single mom. You can be widowed. You can be divorced. You can be in a marriage and feel like you're single. You can just be young and you're single. There's like so many different ways. And I said, look, I'm not trying to be the expert or to have the last word, but I think it's like the first word to have a conversation and to be thinking and to be talking. So, in the New Testament, the religious leaders came and they asked Jesus some tricky questions to complicate his life with their cultural rules about singleness and marriage. Jesus, as usual, surprised everyone with his answer. He basically told the teachers they were missing the point. Marriage is not the ultimate goal in this life or the next. In fact, Jesus said, once this life is over and this world has been renewed, that's a whole nother story, but that's what Jesus said was going to happen. The institution of marriage, this legal construct that we have, will no longer exist. Marriage is not for everybody. I said last week, I'll say it again, I'm a big fan of marriage. I am married. I like for people to get married. I help lots of people get married. And so there's lots of good things. But marriage is not for everybody. Jesus himself did not get married. He stayed single, completely single. Jesus. Okay, sometimes we forget that in the conversations. Now, Mary, the mother of Jesus, took the marriage path. So did Joseph. But Jesus did not. Peter did. Paul did not. So, I talked last week about comparing Bible texts. When you take one verse, you can often get it out of context. We can find one verse to say anything we want to say. But it's good to compare here two texts. Proverbs 18:22. And I'm really sorry, I didn't put anything on the PowerPoint. this week. In fact, I usually don't. I find somebody to help me do it. And if you like PowerPoint things, you can watch on the video. And Silke does a great job adding in some PowerPoints. Proverbs 18:22, he who finds a wife finds what is good and receives favor from the Lord. So that sounds great. Good advice, wise advice. You find a wife, says the Proverbs, you find a good thing or a good person, and you receive favor from the Lord. But Paul, in the New Testament, without contradicting the proverb, in 1 Corinthians 7:28, he counseled people, he advised people to think carefully before they get married. He said, those who marry will face many troubles in this life, and I want to spare you this. So that goes against the idea of, and they got married and lived happily ever after. Everything in life has challenges. Marriage has challenges, being single has challenges. Paul wrote a lot about being married or being single, with different reasons and examples to consider. He gave his opinion about a whole wide variety of circumstances. He talked specifically to parents, to young ladies, young men, widows, divorced people, abandoned people, people who were victims of unfaithfulness and affairs. He even gave advice to married people who were feeling alone and unhappy in their relationship. Basically, Paul taught that whether you're married or single, your behavior should reflect your commitment and demonstrate your faith, your understanding, and your integration of God's love in your life. From a biblical perspective, married people and single people have different advantages and advantages. Like if you're single, you have some kinds of troubles, and if you're married, you have maybe another kind of trouble. And there are good things on both sides. Each person must face their reality with intentionality. Intentionality means you can't just ignore it. You have to say, okay, this is my reality, and what can I do? What is my part? The Bible teaches us to trust the process. We like to say, just trust the process. And as a Christian, I would say, trust that God is working in your life. But at the same time, we are to be intentional about how we choose among the different options that are in front of us, because life is full of options. Sometimes life gives us options, and sometimes life imposes circumstances that we don't like. So sometimes we get to choose, and sometimes we don't. Some people were single by choice, or are single by choice, like Jesus or Paul. Others, because of difficult circumstances that were imposed, like Daniel or Ruth. These are some Bible stories we mentioned last week. Some are married by choice, like Mary or Joseph. Others marry because they have to, like Esther. In the Bible, some are single by their own choice, like John the Baptist. Others are single because of divorce, like Jesus explained. Or they're single because of loss, death, grief, like Ruth's mother-in-law or Timothy's mom. Some people are just young, and others are married, but they live in homes that are filled with unresolved conflict, broken commitments, like Hosea and Gomer. Now, Pablo was right when he said, if you get married, you're going to have some difficulties. But I said, hey, if you stay single, you're going to have some difficulties too. Life brings difficulties. But you're going to have extra difficulties in marriage if you think that your partner is going to make your life perfect or great or complete. That's a false expectation. A partner in marriage can add many things to your life. Some happiness, some love, affirmation, understanding. But this person is going to ask you for those things in return. And so you have to learn in a relationship to give understanding and love and communication and those same things that you're hoping to receive, and probably some things you never have even been aware of or thought about. and your partner needs that too. And you have to learn to give it in the way that the other person understands. I was in my 40s, and I was still saying, of course I'm listening to you. Because Lisa said I didn't listen to her. So of course I'm listening to you. Look, I can tell you everything you just said. She said, well, you listen, but you're not changing anything. And then eventually we got to figure out the idea of listening. If I'm listening to you, you will feel listened to. That's like my hardest question in marriage right now, as I say to my wife. Do you feel listened to right now? I don't like to ask that, but I have to because I've made a commitment. Hey, I'm trying to learn to be a better listener. And that doesn't mean just repeating back, though that could be a part of it. So we have to learn things that we may not be very good at, and that's going to be a challenge. So anyways, the Bible tells us clearly, it gives us hope. There are projects, life projects. There's good times ahead for people who are married and for people that are single. Neither one is better or worse than the other. And there's tons of examples, counsel to guide us, to cheer us on. There's models of faith. There's wise counsel. And there's an invitation to not isolate yourself, but to learn to live in community, knowing that in the midst of the inevitable conflicts, well organized, God presents himself for your growth. That's just a long sentence. I said some of the things you're wondering why I said the sentence, because I wrote it down for my translator, so I want to keep it. So the translator doesn't get lost, but I don't want you to get lost. Let me say it again. Life is full of conflicts. Conflicts are normal. I'll repeat that again. If we avoid conflict, and I'm a conflict avoider, except now I've learned some skills to not avoid it, but I'd really like to avoid conflict. And when we avoid conflict, we avoid opportunities for growth. Okay? So we have to do the things in life that often we don't want to do, that we don't like to do. If there's a problem, we need to find a way to talk about it, to address it, to work it out. And it's not just for our good, it's for the good of the people around us. So, the greatest purpose in life is to connect with God through the light and the love, the sacrificial love of Jesus, to receive joy and peace from God, and to be able to share that with the people that are around us. That's the greatest purpose in life. That's the greatest gift in life and the greatest joy. And so I'll just keep repeating it. The person that's married has problems and good things, hard times and good times, that are different from what the single person has. That's why Paul says, perhaps in Galatians 6, everybody should carry their own burden. But, he says, you should also look for how you can help others. We're a team, we're a community. The church is to be, as we've talked in the previous months, a new family in Jesus. And so the hardest challenge in your life is not to find a partner. That's not the greatest challenge or purpose in life. The hardest challenge is to discover who you are. Who are you when nobody else sees you? When nobody else knows? Who are you really? And so that's a great question. It calls us to focus on discovering and developing ourselves to be able to be what Paul called an ambassador of God, God's light and love in this world. So here was one of the questions I received in this question and answer. So what's a single to do? You're single. Maybe you'd like to be married. Maybe you can't, for whatever reason. What are you supposed to do in this time? I guess it's kind of the same question that I get from a married person that says, look, I'm like trapped in this marriage or in this relationship. I don't know how to get out, and I don't know how to make it any different or better. I think it's a similar question, because a single person, you can prepare to stay single, or you can prepare to not be single. In other words, you need to prepare. You need to get ready. You need to anticipate. Be intentional about facing the future. You say, that's obvious. Well, it is obvious. It's like the story of our life every day. Be intentional. Get ready. What's coming ahead? And then apply that across all the areas of your life. It's very, very basic information. Most of the preparation that you need to do to be single is the same you need to do to be married. And so here are a couple of those points that I'd like to make. Improve your health to improve your life and your options in life. Now, improving your health, we think of food or the gym or exercise, but there are a lot of different ways. There are many different ways to improve your health, and I'll name a few. And most of you know more about this probably even than I do. And you'll have your own application. But you have physical health. That's obvious, your body. And so if you could improve your physical health, you can improve your life and your options in life. So exercise, eating well, sleeping well, discovering and developing like rhythms for your life. How do you do well? Do you do your hard work in the morning or late at night? Do you sleep not enough at night and you need a nap in the afternoon? But work on your health. How about emotional health? So your emotional health, your mood. Take responsibility for your own mood, your moods, your expectations, your motivations. Ask yourself, why do I feel this way right now? Why am I bothered, frustrated, angry, happy? Be responsible for your mood. It's amazing to find out how many times we're blaming somebody else. I'll just use it, speaking to I. It's amazing how many times I'm blaming somebody else for my bad mood. So I need to be responsible. Spiritual health. If you can improve your spiritual health, you'll improve your life and your options in life. Your spiritual health, just think of it as your attitude. Attitude is like the most important thing. Your attitude. Your connectedness, your listener. Are you a learner? Do you wonder? Say, I wonder. When we wonder, that means we don't have to have the answer. That's what we teach in Wonderland with the children. You don't have to have the answer. That's been a new thing in my life this last decade. Faith, hope, love. That's spiritual. That's attitude. How about your intellectual health? The decisions that you make. Are you investing in your mind, your ability? I don't know, some of you in languages, in growing the computer, wherever you need some new skills to just keep investing in your mind. Whatever you know got you to here. That's an old cliche, right? But it won't take you where you need to go. The world's changing too fast. Your challenges tomorrow will be different from the ones you had yesterday. So if you're going to do well in life, you need to be learning some new things, new skills, have new people around you. That's intellectual health. How about financial health? I hope you're not feeling overwhelmed because really this is like life. All of these things are happening to all of us, and maybe we work on some for a while and work on another, and overall you're finding a way to bring all of this into balance. But financial health is your budget. Can you understand and explain, integrate in your life the 4 categories we talk about here from Ron Blue's book, Ron Blue's work? Live, give, owe, and grow. There's nothing else you can do with your money. You're going to live, give, owe, and grow. And so we've taught on it. You can look it up on the internet if you're not sure what I'm talking about. But to manage your budget in a realistic way, how about recreation, enjoyment? Do you know what gives you life? Like you say, I spend all my day trying to live up to what other people want me to do. Work, my spouse, my parents, my dog, everything wants. I mean, the dog, I have a dog at home and Lisa's not there and the dog wants a face rub and I don't like doing that. And it's the Great Dane, it slobbers and it's like, needs a bath. And the dog is there like wanting things from me. And it wants a walk. And 3 o'clock in the morning, the dog wanted to go out. I'm like, because the neighbors are having a party and they're making noise and then, they're just talking. And so Fiona had to, she's like, she stands there and she paws at the door. Boom, boom, boom. And, I got to get up and let her out. And Lisa would say, don't let her out. Then she'll get used to it. Tomorrow she'll want to go out at 3 a.m. But Lisa wasn't there. So I got up and let Fiona out and stand there for a while. And then she comes in and doesn't even say thank you. So identity. Work on your health. You okay, Nacho? Who are you when nobody's looking? Do you depend on other people to get affirmation? Do you need other people to tell you you're okay? You did a great job. Can you enjoy time when you're just alone? I mean, affirmation is a good thing. I'm not saying it's a bad thing, but if you have to have it from some other person, I don't know if that's fair to the other person. And I don't know if you're being honest with yourself. That's been an issue in my life. That's why I bring it up. Maybe it's not your issue. Can you enjoy time alone and still have some peace and order in your life? When Lisa was gone, everyone said, how are you doing without Lisa? Lisa says, nobody ever asks me when you're gone. And so people ask me and they help me. And the truth is, the first week I was just like way off schedule and the house was a mess. And I just, but I've adjusted back to some rhythms. And can you be yourself in a crowd? Or are you like a chameleon that changes colors depending on who you're with? I get that a lot because I'm a pastor. And so people are like, oh yeah, ha ha. You should see him or her when they're not around the pastor. Like people apologize to me for the jokes they tell or the words they say. And it's like, oh yeah, sorry, it's the pastor. And eventually you start to be a pastor with gray hair and they don't even invite you to the parties anymore because, what are you going to do if the pastor shows up? And so I say, hey, just be who you are wherever you are. If that's who you are, then just be that. And don't be changing and worrying about it. It's just so much easier to live if you can just be yourself. I mean, if they start speaking French, I can't change colors and speak French. Right, Maxime? But I can ask Maxime to interpret for me. So how do you manage pressure? Here's another question. Single or married, how do you manage pressure? Do you need medication to survive? And we live in a world of medication. We got something for the allergies and something. I'm supposed to give the dog this big tablet every day that the dog doesn't want. Have you ever had a big dog that you have to shove a pill down its throat and it doesn't like it? And Lisa says every day, so for his articulations, and Fiona just closes her mouth, looks at me, and sees that coming, and she goes and lies down on her bed. And I'm telling you, a Great Dane, if it doesn't want to move, it's very hard to move. You can't move it. I take it for a walk. Never happened when I'm walking with Lisa. We're walking Fiona, and Fiona walks. I take Fiona for a walk, and halfway down the block, she just stops. It's okay, I can tug, I can pull. I mean, if I could make her just drag her, but that's not good. And so she just stops. Do you want to go left, right? Is it uphill, down? I mean, I don't know. I'm standing there I hate walking the dog. And so then, okay, am I responsible for my mood? I'm going to blame the dog. I need to give a report to Lisa. So when I say, do you need medications to survive? I'm talking about those moments of stress or crisis or conflict, and that was funny, but we all have these moments. What do you need? Medications could be alcohol. It could be some adrenaline. I just need to, I need to do something. I need to get going. It could be Instagram. It could be, I need a boyfriend. I need a girlfriend. I'm lost without a boyfriend or girlfriend. I need some sweets. I don't know, Oreos. I just need a package of Oreos because I'm not feeling good right now, and that would help me to be better. That's like a medication. Do you need that? Or some carbs? Or some music? Or some noise? Or some stress? Or some conflict, like somebody else's conflict, so I can resolve those problems because that will distract me and give me something to do. Some problems to solve. And those are different kinds of medication that we have. Now, Jesus was the most differentiated person that ever lived. Now, differentiated has been a hard word for me, but differentiated means basically I can be calm and present and aware, even though the people in front of me or around me are not. And so I went through some stages where if somebody let's just use my family as an example again. I am from a family where my parents, I never saw them argue. I don't know if they argued, where they argued, I just never saw that. So you grow up, you never saw your parents argue. You just think, I didn't know that argument was like a normal part of marriage. But I started dating this girl named Lisa, and her parents, I know this is on tape, Mom, Dad, I love you, but they argue a lot. They just openly disagree. And I was shocked by that. And I still can be. Dad and Mom, I know you're watching this. But I could be shocked by that, and I was just like, wow. Well, Lisa brought that normal way of communication into our marriage, and I was overwhelmed. I did not know what to do. So what would I do? Be quiet. Be silent. Basically disconnect. And so then Lisa will say, well, say something. I don't know what you're thinking. Well, I'm thinking. So I can't say anything because I'm thinking, right? So I could be thinking for a really long time because I don't want to come back and ever have that conversation. So, sorry, Nacho, this is not in the script. But Jesus, okay, so I said I went through stages. So first stage was to be silent. The next stage was okay, she wants me to say something and I feel like she is being aggressive and upset and passionate. And so I'm going to do that too, and I'm going to say, no. And so I would find somewhere some kind of emotion and adrenaline to meet that. Well, that wasn't helpful either. And so little by little, I'm learning some other skills. And to say, first to make a noise and say, interesting. Oh, wow, so that was hard for you. You need me to say something and give some evidence that I'm present. And then I was learning to say, help me to understand. I really feel like I have I feel that, I don't know what I feel. I'm feeling angry right now. This is bothering me. And I would begin to say that and say, it's okay to say that. And Lisa, you can say that to me. All right, help me understand. Then I look at Jesus, and I see that Jesus could always be calm. Remember the story of the storm? And the disciples thought they were about to die, and they're in this little group. So imagine that everyone in the boat thinks they're literally about to die. They can't swim. They're going to drown. These are guys that live in the water. So it's a bad storm if they think they can't get through this. And Jesus was asleep. He said, wake up. Don't you even care? He's like, what are you guys worried about? Be still, be calm. Everything calmed down. And they remembered all of their training, that there's only one person who can calm the seas. It's God. Who is this guy? And they were that was scary too. But Jesus was calm. Do you remember the time they brought a woman and they accused her of adultery? And they said, by law, we can stone her to death right here. So actually stone somebody to death right here? That's like a mob, an angry mob. There's some rioting going on. And Jesus, he got out his gun and said, back off. No, Jesus said, it said he knelt down and he started writing with his finger in the sand. You said, well, he was Jesus. He stayed calm, and eventually everybody got calmed down and went away, and he talked to the woman, and there are just so many examples of Jesus. Remember when he was in front of Pilate, and they're unjustly accusing him, and they're going to kill him, and they've been torturing him and beating him, and he just, he didn't even answer. He just stayed silent. So, these things that you're asking me, you already know. And so God is, it's an amazing thing that Jesus could do it and we can find a way to do it. And so I need to, looking at the clock, I want to keep going. God is never in a hurry, but we always are. We're in a hurry. We're afraid that our life is slipping away and we're going to miss out. I should be married by now, and somebody else told me, you should be married by now. Or why don't you go out and find somebody else and move on with your life? And so we're worried, and in a hurry, we focus on superficial things and secondary concerns. Sometimes like it could be material things, and we miss the real connections. Now let me say that friendships with heart connections are really important. That's what makes joy possible. Those are sources. A good friendship with a heart connection can be a source of health and healing, stability. But the greatest joy in life, the greatest possible lasting joy, like bubbles up from being connected to God and His love and being able to receive it and share it with other people. And that's why most of us feel really good when we can do something for somebody else. Now, I didn't put this in all the video in Spanish, so if you're watching it to remind yourself what I said, this isn't in there. I just didn't take the time, but I wanted to say some things about our sexuality, because that's part of how God created us to connect with Him and with others. But so many people only experience sexuality as something superficial, artificial, and self-centered. And so we're selfish. So God's purpose and intention is that our sexuality would not be a source of disorder and anxiety, but a source of stabilizing and healing love. Now, our sexuality is often presented or perceived in our world today, and again, I'm not like pretending to be an expert. I'm trying to help us to have some conversations about this. But it's presented as a primitive and powerful force that needs to find physical expression. And so when our search for discovery and development, the mix of marketing and the culture and these mixed messages that we have from our life, they're false messages often, it tricks us and it traps us, kind of like junk food that traps our appetites and our imaginations, like that package of Oreos. And if I could just eat those Oreos, I'll feel better. I mean, I like Oreos. Maybe you already moved beyond Oreos. It's like, Lisa's like, it's so bad for you. I'm like, no, it's really a little package of Oreos in the freezer is great. And then I'm done eating it. I'm like, why did I eat those? And so one bite at a time, we can just go to an early grave. Things seem good for a time, but really it's not improving our life. It's actually stealing away our courage, our self-discipline, our capacity. And so our sexuality, when it's misused and misunderstood, is like a weapon of violence against our very heart and soul. And we fall into addictions easily. You say, no, I don't, but many people do easily fall into addictions because it's like in your computer, when the system gets, some kind of virus or stuff in there, that's what's happening in our mind, and it's twisting things around. Our emotions, our spirituality, our mind gets corrupted. And then we're motivated by false fears and anxieties. We're driven by fantasies and desires. Now, some people don't fall into addiction kind of behavior. They fall into just disconnected behavior. And maybe it's due to disgust, abuse, sadness about our own incapacity to find significant, meaningful connection with life-giving love that's profound and growing. And another thing that's interesting, most people won't talk about it. Or if they talk about it, they're not taking advice. And so there is good news. Our sexuality can be developed to empower our relational capacity, to create an appropriate atmosphere for self-reflection that helps us grow personally and spiritually. Our sexuality, if we're single or if we're married, challenges us in our most vulnerable and fragile moments. It will humble us. It will make us more human, more authentic, more real, to face it, to talk about it, to deal with it. Our sexuality is central to our identity, but it does not need to be expressed physically many times as we've been thought or told, or as we've thought or been told. For us to be healthy, whole, complete, human beings. Back to Paul. Paul encouraged people to consider staying single and dedicate themselves to following Christ. A single person has possibilities that a married person does not have. They have freedoms to move easily, serve selflessly, live lightly, have fewer cares. We all enter the world as singles. Most of us will depart the world as singles as well. And so there's 3 life skills. I'm kind of summarizing to finish. There's 3 life skills we're always teaching. I feel like trying to always teach here at Christ Church. They require intentionality and effort, and to help us improve our health and have these better options. And so there's 3 that I want to mention. Connect with a community, clear accounts, and create fun spaces. I made them all with a C so you could remember. And so it could work in Spanish. But connect with a community. Listening is loving, and friends listen to each other, and that requires practice. You want somebody to listen to you. Most people would rather have a conversation than sit here and listen to me for, now it's been almost 40 minutes, sorry. Say, I'd like to say my part too. We want someone to listen to us. Do we listen to them? Conflicts are common. We need to resolve our conflicts, not ignore them. Friendship is mutual. So friends help each other grow and learn. Friendship is work. So friendships fail when somebody doesn't do the work. So we need to connect with a community. We need to have clear accounts. And I'm thinking about money, but also about conflicts. But I talked about money here because you need that skill to be successful single or successful marriage. Many, many conflicts in a marriage come from talking about money. And so you need to know that debt is destructive, and so you need to be able to establish a budget that reflects your reality. Reality, it's an important word. Spending is necessary. So some people think they're just not going to spend any money. And you need to write out a plan, stick to the budget, and ask for advice. A written plan. Do you ever write down where your money comes from and where it's going to go? Do you have a list when you go to the store? And just pretend that you're going to always make the good decisions. Write it down. That's not just my advice, that's good advice. Stick to the budget. Wise counsel is worth it. So memorize some of the Proverbs, get professional help, ask a professional, follow a plan, and give generously. If you share your resources wisely, you grow in your understanding of how money works. And find people who do that and be around them. If you spend time with people who mismanage money, if it's your spouse, then you need to talk about it. If it's your family, you need to talk about it. But if it's your friends, you need to consider, because the way they're mismanaging their life is going to become part of your life. And it needs to be considered. Then the third thing is create fun spaces. Try to improve your life with your choices for entertainment. How is this going to improve my life, make it better? How are you going to become the person you want to admire and the kind of person you would want to remember? And learn what gives you life. Sit down and make a list today. Say, okay, this is what, if I had time to myself, this is what I would really enjoy. Sit at the beach. I don't know. Go for a walk. Walk the dog. Man, you love walking your dog. Walk the dog. I love it when Lisa walks the dog, and I like to walk with Lisa and the dog. I just didn't like being in charge of the dog myself. Lisa knows that. And Fiona's a great dog. So you pursue health in all these different areas of your life. You make a list. What is it that really gives me life, that gives me energy? And as you pursue health in all these things, then you're going to live well, you're going to prosper, and you're going to be able to share your life with others. And as you, with experience and reflection, you can develop wisdom to encourage and equip the next generations. Every one of you, even Jean Segundo, who's our senior member here this morning. Jean, your best years can still be ahead of you if you get up in the morning, and every one of us, and say, Lord, help me to know how to encourage and equip somebody else with the wisdom I've received from you. And that's the best thing you can do. God will help and guide you if you trust him. Now, if you're single, God may have a person for you, and that would be amazing. But you have to prepare. Life is hard. Everything truly good comes with a lot of work and effort. Community connections, clear accounts, creating space for delight and laughter. Now, you may be walking life as a single, and I'm finishing here, but you don't have to be alone. Psalm 68:6. God sets the lonely in families. It's a promise. And God's promises are always greater than our circumstances. God loves to connect us, to connect you with other people, to help us grow in communities where we can accompany and enjoy each other, where we can give and receive life, resources, counsel, faith, hope, and love. And so may the God of all the nations put you in a family and a community where you give and receive all that you need for this next step and this next stage of your life. Amen. So, thanks for your patience and for listening, and I hope some part of this has been really helpful to you as you reflect on your life and who it is that you want to be.